So I want to explain a concept that I talk about on the Harbour Club, which is escape velocity investing. So escape velocity is it's literally rocket science. It's the speed you need to achieve in order to break out of the Earth's gravitational pull. And I equate this to wealth building in the respect that basically when you have a salary is like a trap that keeps you kind of locked in your current kind of wealth pattern, because what happens is that your expenses just basically accumulate to fill the amount of your salary, and then you have to keep making your salary in order to meet those obligations. So your rent, your car payments, your mortgage, or whatever else you're paying on a monthly basis, and so this just creates like a trap that keeps you there. Escape velocity investing is around creating additional income streams that can replace that income, so that your income can then be fully invested. So with most of the kind of gurus and books about sort of wealth, they all tend to focus on scrimping your lifestyle and say don't buy that Starbucks every day, and take that $3 and invest that, and when you compound the interest on that $3, by the time you're fucking 164 years old, you'll have enough to retire on or something. But I don't believe you can save your way to wealth, and I don't believe you can scrimp your way to wealth. I think there's two key aspects. The first one is you have to create capital events. So you have to get chunks of cash. Those chunks of cash then have to be deployed into genuine passive income generating investments, so things that provide an income. That income has to exceed what you spend on a monthly basis, and then you've reached escape velocity, and that means that you can then effectively invest 100% of what you earn. So if you earn fees for something, or consulting fees, or even if you have a job, that money can be 100% invested month on month, and that then snowballs up that wealth. So the initial chunk is the tricky bit to get to, and once you've broken free of that, then the wealth growth after that becomes exponential. It's kind of like, people often say the first million's the hardest, then going to 10 million is much easier, and that's absolutely true, and it's partially true because you reach this kind of escape velocity in terms of the income that you can generate from deploying that capital in an efficient way. Now, there's two main ways that I can see in life of achieving those capital events. One of them is through real estate, and one of them is through businesses. So with real estate, the simplest way is development. So you buy a crappy property, you tart it up and you sell it. Lots of people are good at doing that. They sometimes do that with their primary residence, which is quite tax efficient. One of the drawbacks with real estate is obviously it requires quite a bit of cash investment. You have to put some money down to buy the property, then you have to invest in the actual refurbishment. So you can kind of do it as you go, so that's quite a good way of doing that. The other one, of course, is my favorite, which is buying a business. So you can buy a business using no money down, and you can sell it for 6 or 7 figures later on, and quite often it doesn't need a full refurbishment. It doesn't need lots of money investing to do that. You just need to know how to financially re-engineer the balance sheet, and how to turn a break-even business into a highly profitable business, or a profitable business into an even more profitable business. So it's more about learning the kind of the tactics and the tricks to improve the value of the business before you sell it on. And basically, by creating these capital events, by buying a business and selling a business and creating a capital event, you can then deploy that capital and create the income that takes you towards escape velocity. The next thing is then what you invest in order to achieve that escape velocity, because most people look at the things that banks and financial advisors recommend to them, and so things like mutual funds that are perhaps spitting off 2 or 3% a year in income, or a deposit account which might have 1% or even less interest being generated. They're kind of retail investment products. In fact, when you get onto the private wealth banking ladder, when you're wealthy enough to have private wealth banking, you'll actually see that most of the investment funds, so if you look at the big investment funds, from Schroders and UBS and all these kind of people, and they all have these kind of managed mutual funds. They actually have 3 categories of fund. So they have a retail category which has reasonably high fees. they have another version of the retail category which is sold by IFAs, and it has a really high fee structure so that they can also pay the IFA commissions out of it. And then they have an institutional grade, and the institutional grade is, you know, for institutions, family office and people like that to buy, and it has an incredibly low fee structure, which means that you get a lot more impact from the investment and you get a lot more of the money rolled up, so the compounding effect is improved. You might have heard, you know, Warren Buffett and people like this saying don't buy mutual funds because the fee structure is such a headwind on compounding your money. You're better off using very low fee structure products like ETFs. Well, actually, the institutional version of a lot of those managed funds has a similar fee structure to an ETF, so a much cheaper way to deploy your capital. So your goal should be to get onto the private wealth banking ladder, because that's when you get access to these institutional grade funds, but you also get access to things like fixed coupon notes and other products that enable you to capture very high returns on your capital deployed. So what you'll find is that escape velocity number is much smaller. So for example, to generate 100 grand of annual income, you probably only need 400 to 500 grand deployed through private wealth banking to comfortably achieve that without taking massive amounts of risk. To do that in a retail environment is almost impossible. You simply can't do it. Now, there are some things like some options, strategies and things that you can use where you can, if you understand that area, have a lower risk and generate those sorts of income, but that's definitely something you would need to educate yourself on. And it's quite an active strategy. You do have to look at it on a fairly regular basis to place those options trades and to understand that. But you know, look, a first thing to do is calculate what is that cost. You know, everything measured improves. If you have a goal and you're measuring your progress, it's gonna help you a lot on the way to getting there. So figure out what is your base cost, what's it cost you to live, therefore what do you need to have invested in order to achieve that, and then what kind of deal do you need to do to get that level of cash deployed to get to your escape velocity, so that you can get that financial freedom that bit quicker. Obviously, if you want to learn about how to buy businesses without using capital up front, to be able to sell them, to create these capital events, you can hop on to harbourclubevents.com. That's Harbour spelt as in my name, Harbour, harbourclubevents.com, and there's a free report on there. There's tons and tons of free content we can send you as well, to try and get you kind of get you some experience in what I think is this really interesting world of buying businesses and selling businesses in order to create wealth. So look forward to having you as part of my community.